What's up, everyone? It's Shaft, aka that mill guy, coming at you with a long-awaited interview. I think for many, I think we have the person on my left here has been waiting to use my platform for clout. I'm joking. For a very long time. I've been hoping to use his platform for clout, to be honest.
I was gonna say, who's using who for clout here? Come on. No, I'm kidding.
We don't need to talk about that right now.
Chef is the mill guy. That mill guy. Would that make me this mill guy?
Pretty much. I've stolen a name, so you have to take like a different precursor word. Like
Yeah. Wait, whoa. Okay. The Shaft Blitz Russ podcast. It's this mill guy, that mill guy, and Russ is the other mill guy.
Oh, we're calling it the Millionaire's Mind or Meet the Millers or something.
Okay, yeah.
We already got it. Don't worry. If we need the Mill Avengers to assemble, like I got Alex on speed dial, I got Delthar on here. Like, don't worry, we got people on speed dial. But let's get right into it. We are doing this interview because the lovely individual Blitz on my left here has top 8'd a recent Modern Challenge. And it really feels like Mill is never going to leave. It's never going to die. And we will get into that as to why some of those deck choices, kind of the card choices have led to there. But I think without getting too far ahead of myself, Blitz, introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. How you got in Magic? How you got into Mill? Give us a quickie.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, my name is BlitzMTG. That is what I go by online. I am Blitzline27 on MTGO. And let's see. Got into Magic 2017, so I'm like kind of a baby in the Magic scene. I learned how to play Magic in Hour of Devastation draft. With my buddies at like an LGS, and that was a lot of fun. Went from there, the logical progression, because I had like a little bit of card playing experience before, like competitive, like I used to go to like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments and whatnot. So I was like, okay, what's like my next progression? So like I was playing limited to like learn how to play, and then my friends were like, oh well, you should get into standard. So I got into standard like right around when Ixalan came out. Oh. So this is like Teamer Energy meta.
Oh Jesus.
Oh no. And like yeah, and
you call that a meta, but I'm pretty sure it was just energy.
Well, no, you could play like a blue-white approach. I think there's like a blue-black or Crixus control deck.
That's fair.
There's
this
like
is like
mono-black aggro.
Yeah.
But Teamer Energy was like far and away. Teamer and then like Teamer Black or 4-color, whichever you wanted to call it. Yeah. And like, I had some success in standard in like 2018. Went to the SCG Invitational at the end of 2018. That was a lot of fun. Didn't really hit MTGO till like 2019.
Wow. Okay. Super recent. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, man, I really wanted to get into Modern because there's like Modern tournaments around me, because like I live close to like SCG Syracuse is like my local big tournament.
Yeah.
And like often it's like Modern, so it's like, okay, I need to get into this format, but it's super expensive. I was looking for like budget options, and just like couldn't find anything that stuck. And then I watched Jason Shung, otherwise known as I think it's pronounced Sklut, but it's always weird like pronouncing his name. He's a player from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And he's like one of the godfathers of Blue Black Mill.
Just for those of you who are wondering, it's spelled SQLUT.
Yeah,
I believe, right? Yeah, SQLUT.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an oldie. You won't see any recent results, but it's
because he doesn't really play too much anymore. Like he occasionally plays Arena. He'll play in like paper sometimes, but he doesn't really play MTGO anymore. Rest in peace. But I saw his stream in like probably end of 2019 or no, not end of 20. Sorry, end of 2018. Early 2019, and I'm like, holy crap, this deck is really cool. And then I started playing it, and like obviously it was new to Modern, so I was like just getting beat up on, and this is like still the Mill is a meme kind of stuff. But I kept on it. I played some other stuff for tournaments. I was like a Titan Shift player for a bit. Mono Red Phoenix, Rip Faithless Looting.
Oh god, yeah. We're gonna get on that card in a little bit. I always gotta get people's opinion on that card.
Yeah, go on. So like I've played all sorts of stuff, but like Mill's kind of like become my baby, and been playing that, and it's been a good 2020 for Millers. Before and after Zendikar Rising.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a brief overview of Blitz and Magic.
Well, in a lot of ways, I would still say you are a bit of a Titan player. I think like there's there are two people in this world that I know closely that I would go to for Titan logic. One for my local LGS, and if I needed any help with Titan, it would be him or you that I would ask for Titan.
Oh no. I played Titan Shift. I played Titan for dummies. Like I'm not an Amulet Titan player. No. I played Titan Shift and I played Titan Field. Like when Once Upon a Time was legal, I played that deck. But Amulet Titan is for like sex ed players. And there's a ton of people who like make Amulet Titan content. Like go check out one of them. I could give you a list of like 7 off the top of my head.
It's a really complicated deck. Before we get too far into this aside, I like piloted it once, and my opponent, my friend told me, like, I was just dummying it, and he's like, you could have cast like, it's like turn 4. He's like, you could have cast like 3 Titans here, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just cast this like druid, and what? Like,
it's like you got to put a lot of reps into that deck. And whatnot, and there's so many configurations, and it's like
But going into kind of speaking of deck lists and talking about decks that are hard to play, as the kind of deck evolved, you've gone through many orientations yourself as to kind of how you've played the deck, and I mean Zendikar Rising felt like a big dividing point in the community. I think like along the way we had like kind of the mission briefing, scheming symmetries. Like there was a lot of places where people agreed and disagreed, and it was fine. Zendikar Rising felt like that point where everyone's like, okay, I'm going to go in my own way. And so how about if you want to talk about some of the ways that you explored Mill after Zendikar Rising, whether that be through certain cards, certain different colors,
Yeah, so Zendikar Rising was definitely interesting. Obviously, we got Ruined Crab, which, better Hedron Crab for us. Yeah, Ruin, no longer friends with Hedron Crab. Ruined Crab's my new best friend.
Hey, if you want
to. But we also got Maddening Cacophony, and a question that Shaff and I get a lot is, Maddening Cacophony, isn't Glimpse the Unthinkable just better at mills 2 cards?
Oh, come on, people. Just think past it a little. Just get outside your box. Really look at the card. But go on.
So it's like, sure, Glimpse mills 10, Maddening mills 8. Sure. Sure, you don't even kick Maddening Cacophony very often. That's true. Maddening doesn't lose to Leyline of Sanctity, doesn't lose to Veil of Summer. Doesn't get affected by either of those. The other thing it does, and I think it's like the more underrated aspect, is it's a colorless and a blue, as opposed to a black and a blue. And this opens you up to potentially not having black in your mill deck. So I've played a couple of different versions of blue-white mill in kind of sort of the heavier red metas that we had a couple months ago. You had red-black Shadow, red-black Prowess, blue-red Prowess, mono-red Prowess.
Can we just call those Monastery Swiftspear decks? Like, there's no difference in all of them played Monastery Swiftspear. Let's not lie to ourselves. Come on, everyone. Stop this goldfish. If we're going to Earl pile everything, we can Monastery Swiftspear pile everything.
Okay, fair.
No, I'm joking.
Well, yeah, but Monastery Swiftspear deck, you could also include Nyazu and Boros Burn. So, like, let's...
Fine. Fine. All right.
But yeah, so like in those kind of metas, I liked blue-white because you had a lot more life gain options. Path is contentious sometimes. On like, is path better? Is push better? But I played like a regular blue-white list that would be more similar to blue-black lists, just swapping out removal and sideboard cards. I also played like a blue-white like control deck with Crab's Visions and Traps shoved in there. And did like, okay, I think I like top 32 to challenge with it. shout out to Corbin Hosler for playing my deck in a video recently. Go check that out.
I'll have it in a link down below. It's super recent, like literally the week of this video coming out.
Yeah,
like it came out.
Yes, make Shaft do more work. And that deck's a lot of fun because you get to play Mystic Sanctuary without it being bad in mill. So you can just, hey, you need more cards in your hand, just top deck Ancestral with it. You need a counter spell, you got Cryptic and Archmage Charm. You need more mill, top deck an Archive Trap or a Maddening Cacophony. Now, if Mystic Sanctuary could get back crabs, that's
we'd be in a whole another world of Modern if that could get back creatures. That would be
yeah, let's not.
Oh my god, can you imagine
2021 Wizards
play your 4th land as Mystic Sanctuary, you put your 2nd Uro in your graveyard on top of your library, draw it with the Uro trigger, and then your red opponent is just looking at you like, whoa, why did I register Lightning Bolt in a deck list in 2020? Like,
Hey, Uro piles registered Bolt in 2020. Come on.
I don't even want to talk about that. That's like so painful. Like, I don't even want to talk about that. Like,
yeah, it's literally painful. It does 3 damage to you. Come on, chat. No.
So in those blue-white lists, I really like them because what you were mentioning with being able to line up better with the red list was really important because not only did you have Leyline of Sanctity to play against those red lists, but it really felt like the life gain in white lined up a lot better than the life gain in black. So you have like kind of stuff like Cling to Dust and Crypt Incursion against spell-heavy decks or decks that dealt like 5 to 6 damage against you per creature, but you were only gaining like, 12 life off a Crypt, whereas now you can play something like the 3-mana sorcery I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Timely Reinforcements. Yeah. How do you forget your favorite card in Esper Mill besides Kaya?
My names are really bad for me. It's anyone's known me for any amount of time. Names are bad for me, but Timely Reinforcements, even though it's gaining 6 life, blockers. Blockers blocking that 5 to 6 damage for 1. Like things end up lining up a lot better. And you really start going deeper into the list, like we were talking with Cacophony. How many mill spells are actually just blue? Ruin Crab, Visions, Archive Trap, Maddening Cacophony. Like
Traumatize if you're Chef and Pioneer.
there you go. And you start to realize that like Maddening Cacophony, the ability to play it on an easier mana base and play it through hexproof effects outweighs 2 mill, like milling 2
generally
cards.
Yeah,
like I would even argue 90% of the time. I've almost like passed the point of like, I don't know why I would play a harder card on my mana base just to mill 2 more cards. And I think that's just
because the art looks cooler.
Well, I also
debatable.
I mean,
so
like
who wants Jace on their art? Come on.
You see Jace's pose though? Like if he wasn't like in utter peril, it's kind of hot. Like if he
no, I think the fact that he is in utter peril is hot to some people.
Oh, what? It's a good looking art. I rate it. I hope we get some promo art, like some full art promo art, where we get kind of the whole body in there. That'd be fun. But
isn't there already a full art? There's like an extended border of Maddening.
Do they have the full art released though? Like I think they have the extended border. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's the extended. I think it's just extended border.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But there you go. So that was the kind of exploration of it and as to why Maddening Cacophony can work. And also, again, as we were mentioning, enabling not only the tempo Dimir version that we have now, we have the control variants that can work. Yes, you can play Cryptic Command. You can play the higher land counts. You have Visions of Beyond as, Luis Scott Vargas. I talked about this in a video I made where when Visions of Beyond was released, he talked about this as like the control card. It's like early game, you draw a card. Late game, you're drawing 3 cards. Yeah. And like, wow, we're finally kind of allowing that to work here. But like in proper fashion. Luis might have been exaggerating a bit, but we're actually allowing that to work now. But going from that, the exploration, talk to us about your Modern Challenge list, how you came to it, why you made certain deck building decisions, like you made some changes from the stock list. How did you get here?
So as someone that likes to give credit where credit is due, I'm a fair person that way. I got my list from Winged Hussar. You can follow him at Hussar MTG. You know, give him a little shout out.
All there, yeah. So wings stuff will be down there. The deck list will also be down there, even though it's not on screen. Everyone, the deck list for the challenge is down there. But yeah,
yeah. And so he came up with this really nice Lurrus build of Mill that featured like three Soul Guide Lanterns main deck, which is like a really interesting meta call. And then, you know, some goodies that Lurrus can get back in the sideboard. As far as changes I made, for better or for worse, mostly for worse. So when I was testing this past week, I was finding like mono red Obosh was like pretty prevalent, and that just like felt like an auto lose.
Yeah.
So to hedge against that, I switched 2 engineered explosives for 2 Dragon's Claw. And then I didn't face any red decks the entire event.
Which is crazy, considering that Hayashi first played like won 2 challenges the week before.
It wasn't Hayashi. It was another player. But yeah, Mono Red Obosh literally won both challenges the previous weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but it was just like nowhere. It was nowhere.
It's crazy. It's great because it's not like you can't exactly like hate out that deck properly without really just making a lot of drastic deck building choices. A lot of decks in the meta can't even afford to do that. So.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think there was one red deck in the top 8, and it was like a red black shadow deck. I think. But, I mean, everything else was just like was not that. So the Dragon's Claws were useless. Like I actually had situations where I really wanted the engineered explosives and didn't have it. So you know, on me. And then what was the other thing? I think I changed a 4th Profane Memento for an Extirpate. Because I didn't feel like the 4th Memento was like that drastically needed. Or desperately needed, that's a better word. And I wanted to hedge because the challenges are always full of like amulet players, oops all spells players, which yes, Profane Memento is good versus, but so I wanted something against like I wanted a little bit extra oomph against the combo decks.
For sure. For sure.
And the Extirpate was good. I don't regret making that change. So literally, like I would, if I was to play a challenge right here, right now, I'd play 73 of the 75 that I played. I would just swap the Dragon's Claws back to engineered explosives.
I mean, to everyone watching this video right now, like I definitely want to run through, you know, kind of spoilers here. I'm gonna run through that same list on the challenge, like this Sunday. Like that was, I think, like I was always interested in the Soul Guide Lanterns in the main, but I feel like, you know, we're gonna get to that in a sec. But that really feels like the big kind of call there. And we're gonna kind of get into the microcosm of things here. But do you have any closing thoughts before we get into specific cards about the list? Is there?
No. It felt really solid. Like as I was playing it, like even though I think I played 2 leagues over the week because I don't get to play like a ton during the week. I think I 3-2'd both leagues, or I 3-2'd and 2-3'd, which is like par for the course for Mill. But like it just felt like, other than Mono Red Obosh, it never felt like I was out of games, which you sometimes feel like in Mill. Yeah, like it just worked really well, and I found myself casting Lurrus a lot more than in previous Lurrus versions I played. So that kind of attests to, like, you know, the list feels a little bit more synergistic than it did before.
Yeah, no, and I definitely think there's reasons for that. So let's touch on. I guess first and foremost, the thing that maybe people might not care about the most, but it really is kind of the base. It's crucial. This is an argument that people, the real, like the people in Mill will have, the mana base, land counts. How did you, I guess, because you were saying you kind of got this off Winged, how did you justify continuing on 20 lands in an archetype where we were justifying 22 for the longest time, and then if you're playing Lurrus builds with a lot of 1-drops, you can go to 21. How did you justify continuing down that 20 train, and how did you feel about that?
So with Zendikar Rising, Ruin Crab, Mildek's curve has gone down quite drastically. You know, before we were playing like a number of 2-drops, 3-drops, sometimes even 4-drops in the sideboard and main. now we're really streamlined to the point where like we play a couple of 3-drops. I don't count Archive Trap as a 5-drop generally, but it's like I think literally half the deck is 1-drops.
Yeah,
so like
it feels that way. Yeah, it really does feel that way.
And so when it's like that, you can really kind of cut down on the amount of lands that you're playing, and as long as you're maximizing, making sure you have your colors on the turns that you needed to, versus how much utility you're getting out of some of the like the colorless lands and whatnot. And like this mana base has felt really, really solid. There's times I was even flooding during games, which made me real sad. It cost me my top 8 match.
Only green players will never believe that the shuffler is their enemy. The decks that want to draw lands, oh my god, like the fact that it's always 2v1 on MTGO is literally insane.
True.
So in terms of, I just have the list pulled up here. You have a really, really aggressive suite of removal, and just kind of touching on that, I generally agree with it. I like it. 4 Bloodchief's Thirst, 4 Fatal Push, and again, just there's a ton of 1-drops here. 4 Bloodchief's Thirst, 4 Fatal Push, and the 4 Surgical. Like, you were really just like, okay, stop the combo, stop the graveyard. You also have a 1 Cling to Dust. How did all of that work out for you? Like, were you able to kill Planeswalkers with Bloodchief? Was it just the creatures? What was going on?
So there's like very little Chalice of the Void being cast right now. So
I'm glad you touched on it. That's what I was trying to edge to.
Unless you're winged, because spoiler, I was talking to him that day, and he did not do so hot because he literally ran into a bunch of Chalice decks in a row.
It's
so
tough.
like,
it's tough.
Womp. But generally there isn't a lot of Chalices going on, so you're not often going to get blocked that way. But like the removal is pretty good. Often Bloodchiefs just like felt like a regular Fatal Push. Once in a while you're using it on like a Wrenn, or you're kicking it to get rid of a big Planeswalker or something. The cling is just like kind of incidental, like where you need it, but you can cut in a good amount of matchups. And with how much combo there is right now, like there's sometimes where it's better to go down to 3 Surgicals, 2 Surgicals even, maybe put them in the sideboard. I think right now 4 Surgicals where you need to be main deck.
Yeah. I mean, it feels that way just because I should be telling people as we kind of look to for some places and re-enter the LGS, and some people may not be involved in the MTGO meta, but like Oops All Spells is a real deck. Oops All Spells is like, that's not a joke. It's like legitimately borderline becoming a pillar of the format in the way Dredge has become a pillar of the format.
Yeah, because Sodek won. Sodek won the challenge with it. No, he won it with Dredge. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he won it with Dredge, but like he was doing really well.
He pioneered like a lot of builds of that deck.
And it's not broken. It's very easily disruptible, but it's very consistent. It's like Dredge. It will never go away.
Yeah.
And you need to have the ability to hate out certain pieces. You need to have these things in mind. Graveyard hate will never go away now. Like, it's not just Uro. So I think it's nice to have the 4 Surgical. How do you feel about Cling? Do you feel like that is now a mill staple? Kind of like 4 Orbs or something like that. I don't really know how to get into it, but do you feel like a 1 of Cling is almost just an auto include? Like, it's almost too free?
Firstly, I don't agree that 4 Orbs is a staple, but that's besides.
I didn't know how to like really get into that.
No worries. I don't think Cling is necessarily like a staple. I think it's a good card to have if you have the room for it.
Sure.
Because it's rarely going to be just like awful. Like at worst, it's a cantrip.
Yeah.
That you can recur if you needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's flexible in that regard. But you could replace it for something else in your deck, and most of the time it won't be like catastrophically incorrect.
Sure. And I guess like the kind of just really getting to the second meat of it. We're gonna approach the companion in a second, but
okay. Yeah.
I feel like Soul Guide Lantern. That's the card that I think many people are gonna have a question about. Like obviously, right now in mill lists, we're having stuff like Ashiok and Ravenous Trap that have their ups and downs. Now, Winged can probably go into this a little himself, just because I feel like he was the one really pushing the Soul Guides in a big amount, even though people were playing it. How did you feel about Soul Guide? How did you feel like it performed? Would you play more? Would you play less? And do you feel like this was something that we need to use moving forward? Like this is, what do you think?
I think this is because this is like the one big big change in the list versus previous Lurrus lists and whatnot. I think it's ingenious, honestly. It was really good because much like Cling, it is one of those that at worst it's a cantrip. Plus it does things on top of that because it eats a card out of the graveyard.
Yeah.
And then like at best it like completely screws your opponent, like if they're on a graveyard sentry.
For free almost.
Yeah. And it's also better but Blitz and Chef, what about Relic? That's being played a lot. Well, Relic targets.
Yeah, Relic targets, and Relic also exiles your own graveyard.
Yeah, see also the Maddening Cacophony discussion. Gets around Leyline, which all spells plays a lot of.
And I think that's the key right there. The getting around Leyline is actually so crucial.
Gets around Veil for the Uropiles.
Yeah.
It's
even for the Uropiles, you snipe the Uro in the yard and you just draw with it. Like you don't even need it. Like for Graveyard Hate past that. Like
no, you snipe Uros. I've exiled Soul Guide Lanterns to prevent Mystic Sanctuary topping.
Yep. Yeah.
I've done that. And so it's like this really nice flexible card. Like there are some matchups where you board it out. And it's not like the end of the world, but it's been really good. I've enjoyed playing with it so far. I think 3 is like the perfect number, unless after mill topping a couple of events. If shuffle effects are like really like make you come back, maybe I could see probably replacing the Cling for a 4th one. That could be a thing. But as of right now, I think 3 is like a pretty good number because that's what we were playing of Ravenous Traps or 2 Ashioks if you're uncultured. Kidding. Ashiok is a fine card.
And I think like I am approaching that point where like it took me a bit for Cacophony. I definitely felt like I was one of the group of early adopters for Cacophony, but I had to grow on it. But I am growing on Soul Guide a lot more, and I think the more people talk about it, like you're right in the sense that it is ingenious. We've already talked about scenarios where it really does help, and if you're one of those people that are trying to take mill to the next level, this really feels like a level up in that sense that if you're taking it to a tournament, guess what? You don't have to worry about shuffle effects. You have an anti-shuffle effect in the main board. You don't have to worry about so many of you have seen me on stream play against Dredge, gotta hold the gas, we gotta wait for surgical. No, guess what? We literally have an exile graveyard effect in the main board because it's free. It can just replace itself. It can do so much. And as Blitz was finally kind of touching on there at the end, it is easily sideboardable because it's not crucial to your plan. You never feel bad about necessarily taking it out. So it's amazing. It's like, what if you had like an Ashiok or a Fraying Sandy? It's like, it's like Fraying Sandy. What if I draw and I win? Ashiok, they can't search the library. I don't want to take it out. It's like, no, this is just clear deck building. It's just ignore all of that. Take it out if you need to. Keep it when you don't or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And kind of touching on this final card here on the deck list, Lurrus. No Ashiok, no Ensnaring Bridge, no Fraying Sandy. I'm just kind of going through the big permanents people play. Lurrus of the Dream Den. The Companion Dream is alive. 6 mana for a 3/2.
Yeah. Kitty got claws.
Kitty got claws. Go
Kitty,
for it.
Kitty and all of his or her crab friends.
Yeah.
It's, uh,
And lanterns to light the way.
Yeah, we need someone who is good at graphic design to like make Crab Rave, like an animated Crab Rave, but like also like Lurrus dancing to it.
Yeah. Lurrus like in the background brooding. I feel like
Yeah,
Lurrus
yeah.
is like the brooding.
But like,
type,
kind of like reluctantly dancing to it.
yeah, like the ears or like the head a little bit, like one small part of it.
Yeah. Lurrus is definitely a tsundere. Shout out to the weebs.
But why did you? No, obviously there are deck building, like but beyond the deck building constraints, in a deck like that plays tempo and really needs to make correct decisions in terms of meta, you are taking away a sideboard slot, right? That could go towards maybe one more piece of anti-red hate, one more whatever. Why did you make that choice? Were you casting Lurrus a lot? What was kind of going on there?
Yeah. So I've played previous versions of Lurrus builds since Ikoria came out. Pre nerf obviously it was insane. Post nerf it was like, some builds had it, some builds didn't. And I've kind of gone back and forth depending on how I'm feeling, how the meta is, what other cards I'm wanting to play. I've never been like super anti Lurrus or super pro. I'm kind of in the middle. But in this list, it's really good. Synergizes with a lot of our sideboard choices with what should have been engineered explosives, but technically Dragonclaw, so it works. Profane Memento. Profane Memento in the main board. You have the you can get back Mesmeric Orbs.
Sure.
You can get back your crabs. You can get back Soul Guide Lanterns for repeatable graveyard hate or card draw. So at worst it's a bauble with extra steps.
Yeah.
And at best it's just like game winning. And
Drowning
it also
advantage.
has some hidden synergies with Mesmeric Orb. Maybe if we talk about some matches, there's one where that is a little bit showcased.
Okay, so I mean, let's touch over the sideboard really quickly, and then we can kind of hop into some of the specific matches and how you felt about the challenge kind of going into it. Sideboard itself, you talked about it a little bit. Profane Mementos, Extra Pay, Dragonclaws. How did you feel about... There's 3 cards I specifically want to touch on.
Sure.
It's going to be the Set Adrift, the Bontu's Last Reckoning, and the Aether Gust.
Okay.
So from the top, I think we'll go with the easiest one. Bontu's Last Reckoning, how did you feel about a board wipe in a plan that wants to play Lurrus, where some people might think that's kind of counterintuitive, where you want to put a companion on the battlefield, but you're playing a board wipe? That's not,
So, like, you certainly have to play around that a bit, but there are situations where you just need to clear the board.
Yep.
Like ultimately, you need to clear the board. And I'm not normally someone who likes playing board wipes in Mill. Like, Damnation has always felt really clunky. Bontu's, while kind of necessary, like, essentially it costs 6 mana. 6 plus mana, depending on if you tap other things. But what I don't mind about it is, as long as you don't have Lurrus in play when you cast it, if your crabs die, you can recur them
with Lurrus.
Yeah. So it's like, they're not lost forever. And they're certainly in this meta where there are a good amount of creature decks, like you kind of need like a catch-all.
Yeah. And you need something early. Yeah. That's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'd imagine it's the CMC that drives Bontu's, right? For all those wondering, like, oh, it taps you out. We're talking all the negatives, right? Like, it's the CMC. When you need a board wipe, you need it early. You need it now.
Sure.
You can't afford to wait one more turn of tapping out. But in terms of kind of going through it, we'll leave.
The other thing is the big brain is, if you have an orb out, that's at least 3 less orb triggers. So there you go. Anyways, yeah, so Set Adrift.
No. I think we're gonna leave Set Adrift. Let's touch on Aethergust really quickly.
Sure.
Why did you play 3 of them? Why did you? I guess like in comparison to maybe I know a personal favorite card of yours is Mystical Dispute. Card that I might like to play is Spell Pierce. Why did you opt for 3 copies instead of maybe like a 1 of Spell Pierce? You know, whatever, like other counter magic.
Sure. So like I said in these challenges, you expect a lot of Titan decks. I expected red. Obviously, I didn't see it. And it's a little less effective against the red decks than it would be the green decks. But like, if you run into the incidental Ponza player, any of these sort of things, not only are you getting around like Cavern of Souls because you're not countering the spell.
Yep.
But it goes to the top of the library, and this is also going to touch on why Set Adrift is like pretty good.
Yep.
You know, you're putting these threats on top of their deck. Presumably, you're about to mill them over.
Yep.
So essentially, it is a removal spell without them getting ETBs.
Yeah.
In the case of Aethergust, Set Adrift's a little bit different. But,
and sometimes you do get to tempo them. You get to Aethergust at instant speed after they draw. So they draw, and then you put the kind of permanent back on top. So there is something to be said about knowing what they're going to draw and planning ahead. In the worst case scenario, like best case, there's so many things that Aethergust does.
I think there was one match I was playing against Mardu Stoneblade, which is that's an interesting deck, and certainly was. Aethergust did a Seasoned Pyromancer on the stack, so they wouldn't get the draw 2, discard 2. Then milled it over immediately.
Perfect. And I imagine they had like empty cards. They're like, let me just dump my hand. Let me draw 2 cards.
I mean, it's just like Seasoned Pyromancer is like one of the best 3 drops in Modern right now.
Yep.
Not giving them not only board presence but card selection, I think, is important.
Yeah.
So like it was really good. It was really good there. And like when you play against Titan, it can be. Oof. They Summoners Pact for a Titan, and then you Aethergust at the top, mill it over. Whew.
Yeah. Or sometimes you leave it, and you're like, guess what? You're not casting next turn because you're tapping out for this pact. But sometimes you get real mean with it. But finally, Set Adrift.
Yeah.
Why not Echoing Truth? Why Set Adrift?
All right. So here's the big thing, because I'm a big Echoing Truth guy. I do like that card a lot.
Myself as well.
Yeah. So here's the thing that Set Adrift does. Because you'll have enough cards in your graveyard because you have the 4 orbs. You're wanting to mill yourself a little bit because you have Lurrus. So you have the cards to enable Set Adrift earlier. You get the topping like Aethergust does on whatever permanent. But that's the thing. Echoing Truth bounces to the hand. Mm-hmm. Set Adrift bounces to the top of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge for mill.
Right.
So bouncing into your hand, well, that's great against like Field of the Dead tokens, or like Empty the Warrens tokens. That's where Echoing Truth shines, or they have like multiples of the same permanent. That's really good. But when they have like a singular threat that is on the board that you need to deal with, Set Adrift shines.
Sure.
It's kind of like if you play in a MOBA, if you play in an MMO, some situations it's better to have AOE versus single target damage.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think in the nature of how these 2 cards function in mill, I actually and the current meta, I think Set Adrift, the single target damage is more efficient than the AoE like upside at times.
What if I guess even like jumping from this, there's a lot of things that we've talked about where you've touched on, kind of for the challenge, for something competitive, for this meta. What if someone was kind of going in blind? I guess this is kind of like the final section here. What if someone was going in blind into a league, far future, they were going into their LGS? Let's keep it simple. What are 2 changes you could make
Ooh.
Maybe like one less orb, or whatever. What are like 2 changes you could make? Because there are some meta calls. Again, Set Adrift being one of those. The dragon, I'm gonna not include the Dragon's Claws because that one's easy. We're gonna call those EEs. That one's too easy. But
yeah,
what are like less removal? What are some things that you think could be good? Just again going into the blind.
Yeah, I'm over here looking at my list. That's why I'm looking.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have your list in my second monitor.
Yeah. Just for everyone watching, I'm not ignoring Chef.
He's being super contemplative. Look at him. Look at him.
So what would I change?
What would you change, Mr. Aristotle, while you ponder the eons?
Yes. Archimedes in my bath. Yes.
Yeah.
So, assuming you don't know your metagame going in, probably Extirpate could be something else. Something that's a little bit more flexible, like an Echoing Truth. Like another EE, another Set Adrift. Something that catches all. A second change that I would make. Field.
Maybe to help direct you a little bit, would you consider? We've seen recent Lurrus lists play a 3-drop in their sideboard, like play an Ensnaring Bridge or something in their sideboard. Is that something you would consider, or just kind of go all in on Lurrus?
So I have friends that do that, and I have done it myself.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of including 3+ drop permanents with Lurrus. It does create a bit of tension, whereas. Matchups where you want to bring in, like, Ensnaring Bridge is the big example. Matchups where you want to bring in Ensnaring Bridge, you either have to board in Lurrus with it, or you just lose it.
Right.
And it's kind of stuck there, and it kind of it defeats the purpose of having it there.
It's a good way to think about it.
So, like, if you're fine with boarding in the Lurrus and not just like having access to it when you want, then like Bridge is fine. It's not. It's certainly a good card. Like, but yeah, I would definitely think probably the Extirpate is a little more targeted. You could probably shave like maybe an Aether Gust, a Set Adrift could be, some other things if you want to. If you're like, there's always going to be blue decks. You can play some Mystical Disputes. That card is never bad, especially as 1 mana, because this list is much more tap out, on your turn, much more sorcery speed than a lot of mill decks that would have like Drown in the Lock or more instant speed removal. So yeah, those are some directions you could go. You could also be spicy, and you could shave a Field of Ruin for a Miko Koro, Center of the Sea. That is a card that I've been playing recently, not in this list, but in some other lists, and that card impresses me more and more every time I see it. That card can grind harder than some cross-faded individuals at a rave. That's that card. Miko Koro's is good. It's also really good in the Oops matchup. Sorry, I think I broke Shaft.
No, that is spicy.
The reason it's good versus Oops is Oops are generally going to play like a Nexus of Fate, or I've seen even some play Legacy Weapon, which like that card never sees play.
Yeah.
As like a oh, I'm not going to mill out. I have an extra turn in case I can't kill them. Well, they flip their deck. If you're able to survive, you make them draw with Miko Koro, and then on their draw step, assuming they can't cast Nexus of Fate, which they generally can't.
I mean, I feel like they just lose on the spot, right? They mill over it. You respond to the Nexus trigger and just force them, or not a trigger. Oh, sorry, no, it just replaces itself. Sorry, I'm thinking.
There's no trigger. It replaces itself, but no, it's like so they swing. They creeping shield you. They swing with their Vengevines. If you're able to survive and untap, then you're fine because they go to draw, and you Miko Koro them.
Yeah. This was definitely one of those things that, now that I'm remembering, people talked about as a way to beat the Nexus looping, where people talked about like in response to them casting Nexus, you just Miko Koro.
Yeah. If you have a lot of Reclamation Nexus decks running around, that's another card where Miko Koro can shine. Can definitely shine. Or like versus red decks. They could bolt you on upkeep. Well, if you mill them out completely, you can force them to draw before they can untap.
It's a poor man's Cephalid Coliseum, folks. It's a poor man's Cephalid Coliseum.
Exactly. But it's so it's like there's fringe cases where it's like actually game ending, but most of the time it's like in your grindy matchups. We don't have a ton of card draw. I mean, this list has like a decent amount, but generally we don't have too much, and it's a way to grind. Yeah.
So going right into it, let's talk about the challenge.
Sure.
What was the result in the challenge that we iterated from the beginning? How many rounds did you play? Let's just go into an overview. Tell me about it.
Sure. So it's there were 75 players in this Sunday challenge. So there were 7 rounds of Swiss. Finished 5-2. So I had to prey on breakers.
And we got there.
We slid into 8th place.
Yeah.
So we got there. Unfortunately, lost in my top 8 match. It was so heartbreaking. They were under 10 cards, both sideboard games. But those 4-color Earl piles sure do have a lot of good cards.
I mean, hey, you made them work for it. That's important. You made them work for it.
It was almost a 2-0 sweep.
Yeah.
The first game wasn't even close.
But
and it was the most of my matches were 3 games. I think out of the 8 matches I played on the day, 6 of them were 3 games. So it was a bit grindy. It was a bit grindy.
Just going into that, what did you feel like pushed that third game? Did you feel like whatever shuffle effects, the sideboards that people were bringing in against you were really effective? Like, what was going on that you felt like generally was pushing that third game? What was
I only faced 1 shuffle effect on the day. There was only 1. But a lot of it was just I faced a lot of very proactive decks. And it just the proactive decks, just doing what they want to do faster than I could. That was kind of what just forced it.
Do you think play draw had a big thing to it? I know it's generally tap out, you're a little lower on lands. Like, do you feel like the play draw again had a big effect on mill like it does on other decks? Like Thoughtseize decks, obviously play draw is huge. Do you feel like that kind of plays for mill where I need crab down on 1 or something? Or
most matchups you want crab down on 1. Some matchups I hold crab, especially like removal heavy matchups.
Sure.
So like, I mean, obviously the play feels good on any deck,
right.
Unless you're 8-rack. But shout out to the 3 stands of that deck in the world. No.
I will always have my search for Cantas and Earls for those people. I will always have them, but go
on. I'm not sure it had like too much impact, but with how proactive most decks are, it probably it's just better to get the play whenever you can. I couldn't give you specifics on like I haven't gone through and like, I won this many, this was my win percentage on the play versus the draw and whatnot.
Let's go into like a bit of like an off question here before we kind of hop into specific matchups. So you were talking about not playing crabs in removal heavy matchups. Obviously, like I feel like Modern is slowly approaching that point where when you're playing something like Legacy or Vintage, people will play a land, they will play a card, and that's a tell. Like you immediately know what's going on. Whereas Modern's been relatively diverse for a while. Like generally you will see a certain fetch, you will see a certain creature, and you're like, this could still be like someone could play like, Noble on 1, and you're still not sure if it's like humans sometimes, right? Like or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you feel like so specific scenario? Someone plays Bloodstained Mire, doesn't crack it. Do you play crab on 1?
No.
Okay. I think like generally that's good practice. And I think like that's just what Bloodstained Mire decks like propose to you that like I have Bolt, I have Fatal Push, you know, something like that.
Yeah, if I'm on the play.
Oh, if you're on the play, you don't know you're playing crap.
Yeah.
Like if you're on the draw, like I'm thinking about like kind of fetches. Like if you see green white fetch, I'm slamming crab. If you see Bloodstained Mire, you might not be slamming crab there. What if you see something like, I'm just trying to go through like maybe one more tell here. What about something that's kind of half and half?
Misty, I'm probably not. A Scalding Tarn. Ooh.
Because that one's like, oh, this could just be a control deck kind of splashing into Scalding Tarn. That's the big thing with Scalding Tarn. It is probably the most diverse fetch out there in terms of what gets played.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone watching this is just generally, right? Like, you don't want to do this every time. I'm just,
I think fetches like Scalding Tarn, Misty, Rainforest, Flooded Strand, sort of like the blue fetches.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be contextual on what I have in hand. And like what's my turn 2 and 3 going to look like?
Yeah,
I think that's what I base.
And I think I generally agree.
That on.
I think Polluted Delta might be that exception though. I don't know how you feel about that. Like generally decks that play Polluted Delta, I have a high thing like you're probably playing Fatal Push. Like Polluted Delta is a real commitment type of fetch. It's not Flooded Strand. It's not Scalding Tarn. That's like general. Misty tends to be another specific type of fetch, but probably means they're playing Urros and you're feeding their Urros, but
sure.
Okay, there you go. I wanted to pick your brain for that. I think that was a really interesting point there. So talk to me about maybe one or two matches that you felt like you wanted to highlight. Let's talk about those. First match, last match, whatever it is.
So first match, I played against the eventual second place player.
Wow. Yeah.
Who was on Amulet Titan.
Okay.
I was their only loss in the Swiss. And they lost round 1. So
that's right. You teach them. You teach them respect.
And so they went and then their next loss after round 1 was in the finals to Sodek. So
Yeah. Sodek got there, but you know what though? Again, on a complete aside, I'm happy that Sodek got there with Dredge. That's super cool to see some like.
Give me that finals and like Sodek is an amazing player. He is a master of Dredge. He is a master of combo
Big
decks.
Poppy Dredge.
Sodek is a king, and we pay respects to kings. However, with this list, I will play against any Dredge player anytime.
Have you heard of Crypt Incursion? Have you heard of Soul Guide? Have you heard of Surgery? I don't even know.
8 graveyard hate main, 6 in the side if you include.
You literally don't even need to work for it.
No.
You don't need to do anything. All of these cards are active without any effort. Any effort put in on your part. That's what I love.
So this is me talking a little shit. Shit. Not, obviously.
We gotta have some fun here. But
anyways, the third game against Amulet Titan was kind of a sweater. And what I mean by that is
it happens
for most of the game. So I know that they have a shuffle effect. They have a Gaia's Blessing in their deck. I have 2 crabs on board for pretty much the entire game.
Oof.
And I just cannot find a Soul Guide Lantern or even a Surgical.
Yo, oh my god. Are you playing lands at that point? Me, I wouldn't even play a land. I wouldn't.
So that's the thing, is I needed to play a certain amount of lands for when I wanted to go off.
Yes.
And so kind of one of my leveling moments was Rune Crab has to go with them. I had 1 Ruin, 1 Hedron.
Okay. Yeah.
I was using Hedron to target myself.
Perfect. Yes.
So it was play a land, both of us mill 3.
Yeah. Okay. Share the love.
For 3 land drops. And I had an orb on board too. So I'm just clenching. I'm just hoping. I'm like, don't mill the Guy's Blessing. Don't mill the Guy's Blessing.
Yeah.
And the other part of this,
literally, Jesus took the wheel into the fastest race car in the world, and you're like, oh.
It's your younger cousin got their license for the first time, and you're in the passenger seat gripping the handle, just like. And then the other part is this shows like this match I think showed the power of Lurrus. Because like Amulet Titan is not a matchup you expect Lurrus to come in on, generally. Because you're either like you're bursting them with mill or they're playing Titans and they're just blowing you out turn 3. With my Hedron triggers and my orb, I'm able to mill over Soul Guide Lantern.
Right.
And I'm able to resolve Lurrus, have enough mana to play Soul Guide Lantern, and then burst mill them.
No holding back there.
Right at the end.
No holding back there.
No. It's like once I found Soul Guide Lantern, they were
That's
dead.
it. The game was done.
They were dead.
The game was done. Yeah.
So it was like a waiting game of, okay, how lucky can I be? Like how tight, like because you're on like a tightrope at that point. Like how much of a balancing act can I do? Like I was holding lands for a while.
Right.
I was holding back playing additional crabs even because I was just drawing them and I'm like, oh, I can't find what I need.
Right.
And then it was like, okay, Lurrus, play Soul Guide. I think it was like, this could be incorrect, but it was something like fetch, Field of Ruin them, trap you, or something, or it was like fetch. It was like fetch. Oh, I played third crab. Sorry, so that's what it was. It was Lurrus, Soul Guide Lantern, play third crab, fetch land on the triggers. Gaia Blessing comes up, exile, finish you.
Done.
That was what. Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Just even beyond like just the efficiency of Lurrus, a good lesson in patience for those of you just kind of in your mid tier with mill, or maybe just kind of starting off. You're wanting to level up. This is one of those situations where patience is really important, and you saw how there is a way to find a win. You just have to work towards it. So understanding like, okay, I don't want to mill them, but I don't want to make too many land drops, but I do want to develop to the point where I want to play Lurrus. If I can't draw Soul Guide, I need to recur Soul Guide.
Yeah.
So how can you work towards that to that point, and what can you do to prevent that? What are you aware of on your opponent's side in terms of can they get Bajuka Bogs or like, that's obviously deeper thought. That's kind of in game and whatnot, but I think that like the biggest lesson there is patience.
Yeah,
patience.
It's like the matchups like anything with a shuffle effect and anything that's graveyard dependent is like you really need to show restraint until you get that graveyard hate that you need. You get that surgical, you get that Soul Guide Lantern, that Ravenous Trap, that Ashiok, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of those things that is important to the sense that if you mill them while developing your plan, you have a plan. You're trying to get Soul Guide Lantern, right? Like against the graveyard deck, against the shuffle deck, you're trying to find Soul Guide Lantern. If you are developing your plan and they go off or they find the shuffle effect, that doesn't mean that you necessarily did something wrong. And I want people to understand this. You need to separate, and I think this is the biggest thing that people level up from Mesmeric Orb. You need to separate the consequences from your decisions, because not both are like intrinsically like intertwined. That shuffle effect was going to come about regardless of whatever land you played, whatever happened. It's all RNG. You were making a conscious decision to move towards a movement, like what Blitz was doing. Could have found a shuffle effect in any one of those Ruin Crab moves, but he was still developing towards a plan that allowed him to win. Okay, so people are like, I don't want to play Mesmeric Orb. It's going to mill myself out. Okay, but like, are you developing towards a plan that's going to help you win? Are you going to mill yourself out more or them out more? Like, what are you doing with your plan that you feel like is a downside?
I think I've ever milled myself out with Mesmeric Orb once, and I had like 2 or 3 out at the same time.
It was like I milled myself out with Orb and a mirror live on stream. That's it. Like it was the mill mirror, and they had 2 orbs out. Like that's it. Like it never happens, folks. Get past that. Like,
also pro tip: don't keep Mesmeric Orbs in the mirror after sideboarding. That's like.
Oh my god! Thank God. I hate
how
I hate how I'm the only person that says this. I really hate how I'm the only person that says this. Thank God, please.
Now Russ says take out surgical of the mill mirror.
No!
That one I think is contentious.
Oh my God, no, that is so incorrect. I will fight people to the end of the day. No. Oh my god, that is like one of the single most objectively incorrect things.
But Russ is also a force surgical in the sideboard kind of guy. So like, you know.
Okay, we're just
he likes to throw down in different ways. You know, we like
folks,
our homie Russ.
You can do things the hard way or you can do things the easy way, okay? We're just gonna put it there, okay? We're gonna put it there. You can do things the hard way, you can do things the easy way. But kind of taking that, so that was your amulet matchup. What was another matchup that maybe highlighted? I think earlier you were talking about there's something you mentioned about Mesmeric Orbs or recurring that, or maybe that was this scenario. Like
that was this scenario.
This scenario? Okay. What's another matchup that you felt like taught something?
Oh, what's another good one? Because a lot of them were just about like me getting lucky, which like that's a lot of Magic, especially mill. Just like you want to mill over key stuff. So I don't have like a specific one that I necessarily want to get into. Like like big long discussions like we did with that one. Maybe just like kind of like cute things that happened that are kind of memorable. Like for example. And I think I was messaging you while you were streaming while this was happening. So round 7, so last round of the Swiss, I'm up against Red Black Goblins.
Yep.
And I think you know where I'm going with this. So
this was wild, y'all. I didn't even know. I was like, yo, rest in peace, Blitz. Like I was like, oh
yeah,
no.
I thought it was dead. So here's what happened. So Goblins is like I would say like a decent matchup for us.
I would say it's
like
favored.
Not bad. Yeah,
I would say it's favored.
And it's like the only tribal deck I would probably say that about. So they turn 2 Snoop, turn 3. What is it? What's their tutor? No, not matron. The other one.
Oh yeah. The black one. So for everyone thinking about this now, it's 1 black. It's 2 colorless. It tutors a goblin to the top of your library.
Something Harbinger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just have turn 3 like Kiki combo.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh great, I'm dead. So all I do is I hit yield
6. Let it happen.
I have 6 because I thought I was dead. I'm like, it's a premier event. I'm just gonna let them do their thing. Okay. Yeah. So they're doing their thing. They're making Snoop copies after Snoop copies.
Yeah.
And I'm messaging people like Shaft and some other people that I'm keeping updated. I'm like, dude, I just got turn 3 by goblins. Oh no, ripped my top 8. All this kind of stuff. And then I look at their graveyard after a couple of minutes, and I'm like, wait a second, because I'm looking at a stock list of goblins because it won the Friday night event.
Yeah,
the PTQ. I'm looking at that list because I'm assuming that's like the stock list at the moment. So the other part of the goblin combo is what is it? Sling Gang Lieutenant?
Yes, the black creature for 4.
Yeah. And that's how they ping you with all the Kiki copies or the Snoop copies. So the list plays 2 of them. I look at their graveyard. There's 2 in their graveyard. So I was like, okay. So
you're gonna untap.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
There's a chance. So they go off. I think they realize after a certain point.
After like 50 Snoops, they're like, wait a second.
There was probably close to that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Snoops. There was like an overabundance.
Yeah.
Like, the board was overpopulated. So then they copy. They use they copy Harbinger, I think, and put the munitions expert on top. But they don't have any mana, so they can't cast it this turn.
Sure.
Presumably they want to cast it on upkeep.
Yeah.
Before orb triggers.
Yep.
And like try to do something there. They make some extra mana. I believe they play like a Krenko. They've played 4 mana Krenko. Not the new one, the old one.
Oh, the old one. Oh, okay. I was like, oh
yeah. No. The 4 mana like the OG Krenko that like taps and makes tokens.
Okay.
Yeah. And I get to untap. And I was like, cool. I proceed to not only with Orb is gonna like mill. Well, Orb was gonna mill over Munitions Expert if it didn't have Flash and Snoop. You can cast
yeah
stuff off the top of your deck. So like I make sure I mill that over.
Yes.
And then I just like play mill spells, and it's like go. All right, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and then I think the second game was like not even close.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. So that was just kind of like a cute thing.
Well, I think that was really important. I think that was another lesson too of teaching people that like, okay, so there's a dichotomy here. There is an understanding of when to call it quits, but when to understand your outs. If your opponent, if you are being drowned in card advantage, your control opponent has 7 cards, you have 2 cards, and they have wiped your board, please concede the game. There is no play it out. You're done.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
If your opponent is playing something like a combo deck, maybe a mid-range deck, you're both kind of even, or in this case of the mid-range deck, if you're even, you play that out because you need to understand what resources they have. If they're playing combo in this specific scenario, it does not mean you are dead because you need to understand the combo. Where can you interact with the cards that you have? What resources do you have? And in this case, Blitz could have just called it, but was able to then identify they don't have a win con. They don't actually have anything. They have nothing. They have infinite goblins. But folks, let me tell you, understanding the goblins combo, the Snoop taps itself out to create infinite copies. The combo is infinite damage with an activated ability. Understand your combo. If they do not have the sack outlet, they don't have it. They just have a bunch of tapped goblins.
Yeah, so what ended up being just like a, hey, I want to waste a little bit of their clock, turned into, oh, I actually win on turn 4 or 5.
So
cool.
Definitely, even if this happened like accidentally or whatever, this is definitely a lesson of, especially with combo decks, play it out, understand what you're trying to get rid of. You might have just won accidentally. Yeah, it happens. It
was literally a win by accident.
And it happens.
Those are great. Those are hype.
You take those. You take those.
Yeah, absolutely. Round 2, I played against Blue-White Spirits, which was like an interesting matchup in the 1-0 bracket.
Yeah.
And I think game 3, I ended with like 80 life or something like that. Like I had like a profane memento, and I was milling them. I Crypt Incursion, got up to 67. They did more damage to me. I milled a couple turns later. I Crypt Incursion again, go up to 80. And then at some point while they're like trying to hit me, they like end up scooping.
Yeah, because they're like they can't. They can't overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe it was game 2. It was game 2 or 3. But it was just like that was the I posted on Twitter, I was like, hey, asking for a friend, is 67 life versus a tribal deck good? And then I replied, how about 80?
Like, that sounds good to me. Yeah. So yeah. So I guess like that's how the matchups generally went there. Kind of going into how I don't know if you wanted to touch base on your 4-color Uro piles, because it seems like you. So I would generally say that deck is generally favored, although closer to 50, just because the amount of value that they can have, in terms of regular control. Blue-white control is definitely, I would say, 60 or above. Uro pile can be a little closer to 50. How did you feel against that matchup? I know you have a lot of hate for the deck. Did you feel like you got unlucky? Was there maybe a card that they brought in you felt like you couldn't beat, or?
So my thing with Uro piles is, first off, I don't think you should be able to play a 4-color deck without something like Astrolabe, something like because tribal decks can play 5-color because they have specific lands for it.
Yeah, like this fine. Land only gives you colors if you play human or something. Yeah,
exactly. Those are fine because there's like deck building restrictions with it. That I'm okay with. 4-color Uro, they just play triomes and shocks and fetches, and they just have perfect mana.
Can we give a shout out to triomes? Can we give a quick shout out to triomes?
I think triomes are cool.
I think the fact that tapped tricolor fetches are like actually eternal format. Well, arguably, modern isn't an eternal format, arguably, but the fact that like it's seeing modern play. Quick aside, shout out to triomes. Go on.
Yeah, no, I think triomes are fine.
Yeah.
But just like what they've created on top of a long line of sorry, Wizards, design mistakes, just kind of crammed into one.
Yeah.
They should not be able to play Renin 6 and Teferi Time Raveler in the same deck.
And still reliably cast Uro on 4, might I add.
And cast Uro, Escape Uro, cast Omnath, the 4-color Omnath. All of this, like they're playing it, so many good cards just in one deck, and it's like insane. Now, that's not to say that the matchup isn't beatable.
Yeah.
It certainly is. I played against it twice in the challenge. Unfortunately, I lost both of them. My top 8 match was very winnable. It came down to some of my draws didn't pan out at the very end. They were able to get what they needed and do that. So that was like that was heartbreaking in one regard. The one I played in the Swiss was very much
so it was round 5. I just had the matchups below me here.
Yeah. It was round 5. It was my only O2 of the day. And it was just literally like they had it all pretty much the entire time.
Yep.
Like they had almost every answer.
Yeah. Like they spell
like
snare
that
into mana leak into cryptic. Like they sometimes it lines up. Yeah.
They just had everything.
Yeah.
And you can't really do anything about that, especially when you have a deck that's like so congested with just good cards, excellent cards, bannable cards.
Right.
That's
2019 dot deck.
2019 and 2020 dot deck. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's how that
start calling it 4-color COVID. No, that was probably a bit too much.
No worries. There's a lot of grievances we have. If we can put it on one of our least favorite decks in Magic, I don't.
For sure, it's by far the best deck in Modern. Everyone needs to be prepared to play against it.
But it's not necessarily. I think that's the key. It's not necessarily broken. It just does everything really. I would argue the Snow version that we had with Astrolabe was like really dumb. Just because it drew really well, like it was really oppressive. But at least with the 4-color Earl pile, like it's more disruptible because like the mana, it's like, okay, Ponza can actually do something against this deck. But I'm hesitant to call it broken. That's me. But I think it's less oppressive than the Snow version that was here pre-Astrolabe. That's my thoughts on it.
I would say yes in the regard like Ponza can do something about it because it's not Astrolabe that can just filter their colors.
Yeah.
But I would also say with recent sets, a lot of the decks around it are just better. Compared to when like 4-color or 3-color Snow decks were just like the epitome of broken.
Okay. Actually, you know what? How about we put a thing on this because I actually do want to touch on this. Is something that I want to touch on like in like a quick discussion about the meta with you in a second. So let's hold that there. That's going to be important. Let's end off this challenge discussion about how do you feel about Mill? Will you play this list again? What are your changes? What are your looking forward into the next month pre-Kaldheim? Are you playing Mill? Do you like this? Go on.
Well, I mean, I'm playing Mill because I simp for the crabs.
Yeah.
For the crabs. So I'm always looking for like new things to add. I'm always changing my list. Honestly, I've just been so impressed with this list. Like, obviously gonna go back to the 2 E's, but I'm gonna play this deck a lot more. See what happens. See if the meta develops at all, and then obviously you make changes from there. But I've just I think Mill is in a pretty good spot right now. Regardless of what some people in Twitch chats will tell you, what some streamers will tell you, Mill is not a meme deck anymore.
Never, no, hasn't been for a while.
Even before Zendikar Rising, when it was a meme.
Yeah.
There are people out here, we got our top 8s, we got our trophies. Like it happened. It happened less frequently, but it happened.
Yeah.
This is a legit deck. It's not absolute tier 1. And anyone who says that you're claiming it's tier 1 are being really disingenuous. But it is a solid tier 2 deck that people have to devote at least one sideboard slot to you, unless they're just super favored. Like red decks don't have to give you a sideboard slot, but
yes,
but
they're just better.
But all of the Titan players live in fear. All the Tron players live in fear. Tron isn't even played that much. Like as the combo players have to have a way to deal with you. You know,
and I think that's important, right? Like it's like this is it. We've solidified ourselves. We are a meta deck. This is it. We are like Adnaz. You know, we're kind of like Blue Moon. Well, a little better than Blue Moon. I have my gripes about Blue Moon when people call that a deck.
What you don't like twinless twin Kiki Jiki Deceiver Exarch?
I think people just don't want to sell their Scalding Tarns, but that's a deeper discussion.
No. Shout out though to Twinless Twin MTG though. Like him and Taimu have been crushing with this deck. Like,
yeah, I think you know what? I'm proud of the following. I'm proud of the following of people that want to cast Blood Moon and Cryptic at the same turn.
No, they're not. They're not playing Blood Moon. I don't think.
Oh, they're still not doing that. Okay.
They're just like they're Kiki comboing, but they're playing Boil, and they have like a pretty Boil proof things, because that's how oppressive 4-color Uro decks are. Like you need.
I don't hate. Like you know what? It's a good card. I still hate it.
I don't think I've been boiled very often. So
I've been boiled 3 times, and it's never been fun. I think one of those scenarios, I'm like, okay, we still have like 2 crabs. We can do this. All the other times, I'm like,
play Sultai where like all of your fetches are blue.
This is why when people are like, Shaft, why are you playing Waterlog Grove? I'm like, you ain't never seen my stream, have you? You ain't never seen my stream, have you? Like, But okay, so that's what we got as our final result for Mill. Again, you know, before we move away, congrats to Blitz for getting that top 8. Hopefully, we can see some more prelim results as well. And you know,
shout out to Emerg, who is another player who top 8'd the challenge with Mill, with a different build of Mill. They got 7th, I got 8th, because we both lost our top 8 match. But you know, hey, two Mill top 8s in the same event, I don't think has ever happened.
No, so that's pretty big. Like, that is a momentous event, and again, that list was different. It was, you know, played 4 Maddening 4 Glimpse with 21 lands. That is, that scares me in terms of flooding or like not getting enough mana. That bothers me. But it worked, and it shows you that the archetype can do what it needs to do. Sometimes it's based off of luck. Sometimes your deck building will get you there, but the deck is there. As we were just saying, we are a meta deck. You can make the choices you make, and you can still feel confident in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing Glimpse the Unthinkable. And, I'm joking, folks. I'm joking. Let's go into a bit of a kind of small discussion as we round out this interview. Let's kind of go into a small discussion. Going back to that Uro discussion, I want to talk a bit about how you feel about the meta, where it's at. Continuing that Uro discussion, you were touching on like you didn't feel like this was, you know, it still wasn't a fair deck. Do you feel like there are cards that are bannable in that list? Like, where do you land on the Uro piles? Because yes, you're right. It is clearly the best deck in Modern right now.
Yeah, it needs 1 or 2 nerfs at least.
What would you touch? What would you?
Okay, so I would ask for a specification. What would I hit as far as personal dislike, or what would I hit as far as what I think would be healthier for the format?
Go for it. Both.
Because there's a slight difference.
Go for it.
Both of them, I'm going to say Mystic Sanctuary. I think this card is a little too strong. The fact that you can fetch, just put any spell on your.
I mean, hey, Pauper players will tell you the same, but.
And like, think about the other 4 lands in that cycle from Eldraine. Like who? The only one is like Dwarven Mine sees some play in that Polymorph meme deck.
Nah, doesn't count.
But like, does anyone play Witch's Cottage? Does anyone play
I wanted to play Witch's Cottage. That was a really interesting card, actually.
Is it Gingerbread Cabin, Ginger House Cabin, something like that? The green one that makes the food?
Literally no one. That's literally the worst one. That's the worst one.
I couldn't even tell you what the white one is called. It probably just makes a token.
No one can tell you what white cards are in 2020 because Wizards doesn't know how to.
Maybe it puts a +1/+1 counter. Maybe it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Oh,
I think
that's
it was
awful.
Like a +1/+1 counter. I think it was played in the mono white like devotion deck.
Oh, that's so bad. Okay.
Yeah. But like Mystic Sanctuary is just so much better than the rest of those. Now, regardless, that is not a reason for it to get banned. What I think it is you can set up infinite cryptic locks without like graveyard hate interrupting it. And these mana bases are just so extensive that you get without getting punished at all.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's too good. So as far as I'm going to make the distinction.
Okay.
What I think for health for the format and for most people's griefs, Uro probably needs to.
Okay.
That's been the topic. And I know Chef is a devoted Uro lover for the Sultai mill.
I do understand. I will say I do understand people's gripes with it. I as someone who has recently been jamming Historic for a very, very copious amount of hours, I have slowly hated Uro more than I've liked Uro, but I'm on both trains.
That card is very good. That card is very good. It does everything you want it to do and more.
Yep.
As far as what I personally would like to see banned, and I'm sure some people would share with my sentiments, I want Teferi Time Raveler gone.
Yeah.
I detest that card. I think I can't think of any cards that tilt me more, personally, than Teferi Time Raveler and Eidolon of the Great Revel. But Eidolon is not a bannable card by any means.
No. Eidolon's very important to the format. Eidolon is like very functionally crucial to burn. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and it can hate out some like ridiculous combo decks, and like I don't mind it existing format wise. I just hate playing against it.
Sure. Yeah. No, for sure.
My thing with Teferi is I'm here to play Magic. I'm not here to play Hearthstone.
Oh God.
It's not even like if you get silenced or Ranger Captain of Eos, that's one turn. There are ways to play around and whatnot. Teferi just sits there and says you cannot react to anything. Plus, I'm going to get card advantage, and I can cast any of my spells whenever.
If there ever was a reason not to play Shelldock Isle, it's this 3 mana.
That too. But Shelldock really shouldn't be in your mill deck right now.
I mean, as a final nail in the coffin, if anyone ever needed a reason not to play tap lands.
It sees more play in like legacy mill decks than it does in modern mill decks. If that's
I hope so. I really hope so at this point.
Yeah. So, but Teferi is just like a lot of unfair decks can play it just so that they don't get their combo interacted with. Mm-hmm. Control decks will play it so that you just can't counter any of their threats. Mm-hmm. It is a very suffocating card to play against. Unless you're just running a ton of creatures that you can just attack into it.
I mean, like it's the linchpin of. I think like there's something to be said about Uro. It's so weird. It's a back and forth. I think we're like Saffron Olive. I think said it pretty well in the MTG Goldfish cast just yesterday. But I'm looking at the metagame right now, Tuesday afternoon, December 8th, sorry, 12:50, whatever. I'm looking at the metagame right now. There's 3 Uro decks, right? There's Uro Omnat, Sultai Uro, Temur Uro. And Uro has something to be said about helping to push back the red aggressive decks. Mm-hmm. But as Saffron said, you can be one of the most mediocre medium tier bad control players. If you just cast Uro over and over again, you will probably be fine. And I think that's the problem with this card. I don't think it actually helps the deck become better. It's just this safety valve that's like too much. It's this it doesn't help it doesn't help forward the plan of the deck. It's just this massive card that like literally stops everything else. Yeah. Why not play it? It's free. Look at Omnath. Omnath is becoming not a safety valve, but a finisher because of Uro. I would argue without Uro, Omnath wouldn't be a playable card. There would almost be no reason to play it, I would argue, because it becomes extremely difficult to get the multiple land drops. You do want to hit that last trigger.
It would definitely be worse, for sure.
And so I would, if Uro was banned, I would be very upset, but I think I would generally be more scared about the red decks rising up without Uro, which is why I'm scared as to what our solution could be beyond that point, but I could agree with the ban.
That's fair. And
I think that's where I land on it. But here, let me ask you some questions about how you feel about, I'm going to give you maybe a couple decks, how you feel about Mill matching up against those decks.
Hit me. I love quiz shows.
Hammer Time. This is a deck that people have been jamming so aggressively. I've been seeing this on Twitter repeatedly. Like, Hammer Time, look at this. I'm 9-1. I'm like 15-0. I'm like, look at this, such a good deck. How do you feel about Hammer Time? By the way, people who do not know, Colossus Hammer, Memnite, Ornithopter, Pure Steel Paladin. I don't know. There's like a million things you could put on this card.
Yeah, there's a so right now the build that's being played is mono white, though you could play Boros, you could play Selesnya, you could play Orzhov. I haven't seen an Azorius build, but I've seen the other ones. Mono white is the most consistent. It was one of my matchups in the challenge. That deck is very hard for Mill to beat.
Yeah.
You have to have multiple pieces of removal lined up,
like at all times. At all times. Like
because not only, and you need them at instant speed, because if they have Sigarda's Aid, they can just flash in Hammer whenever, and you want to kill whatever it's going to attach to, because they likely will not, once Hammer resolves but it doesn't equip to something, it's hard for them to re-equip it because it's like 8 costs.
Yeah. So which is where like the Boros build helps, because it has a red spell that does that or something.
Yeah. But the way they do it in the mono white is like excuse me, Pure Steel Paladin.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, where equip costs 0 and everything. Yeah.
But that's the only additional way. But they also play a copy of, what is it, Swiftfoot Boots?
Yep.
Is that the card?
Yeah. Swiftfoot Boots.
So, and I had one situation where I saw it coming, but I didn't have a way to play around it.
Yeah.
I had a push up. They Stoneforge to get boots, and I was like, okay, the only way I get punished for this is if they have Hammer in hand. They swing with a creature, they tap, go to play Colossus Hammer. I play my push. They play boots, attach. Poof, my push is gone. I lose the game.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that it's unbeatable, but it is very, very hard. It's one of those matchups where I really wanted engineered explosives.
Yep.
Because if you can keep Sigarda's Aid off the board, they're much less scary.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a good matchup for me. No, try to dodge that.
It's definitely something that, like, if you're on MTGO right now, you will be seeing this to some degree. Like right now in this very moment, a lot of people are like big into it. It might die down, but that's why I wanted to touch on it. Oops, all spells. Something that we touched on before. The big graveyard hate deck to enter this format. Legacy-like, it feels very degenerate in some ways. How's the whole matchup?
So, this might be personal bias.
Sure.
On like my limited experience playing against it, because like I said, I don't get to grind all that often. But I would, instead of calling it oops all spells, oops, they can't beat me. No, there's probably a better BM name for that. I mean I lose to it once in a while, but I think as long as you're smart with your deck building, you're packing
mulligans are a big thing. Yeah.
Mulligans also, you're packing enough graveyard hate. You board out the correct mill spells, because you do have to mill out some. So kind of like you're slower. You board similarly like you would with Dredge. Like you want the orbs out. You want maybe you board out some of your crabs depending on your slots. Do that sort of thing. You board out, like I board out the blood chiefs, but I keep in the pushes.
Yep. Because they can actually kill Vengevines if you need them to.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to kind of instant speed with that.
Okay.
But I don't think now I understand why it's like a menace of the format. I just personally don't have as much of an issue with. I think it's a really good matchup for Mill as long as you have the hate piece. It's like with like Neobrand. It's basically replaced Neobrand.
Yeah.
Oops All Spells is if Neobrand and Dredge had like a horrible incestuous baby.
Yeah. I agree with all this. I think it is generally favorable, and it's nice that even though it replaces Neobrand, it takes the side of Dredge where it's like, this is more favored. I felt like Neobrand was definitely tough, but it's like, now that you're adding graveyards into it, it's like, you're playing my battlefield now. Okay.
I really enjoyed playing against Neobrand personally. Yeah? I had a really good win.
I mean, as an ex-humans player, I love playing Meddling Mage against Neobrand, but
Oh no, it's turn 2. I cast the Mill spell. I surgical Allosaurus Rider or Gristlebrand. Okay, how do you win the game?
Yeah.
Your guide beats.
I love 2/2s with my O3s.
Like the one random Thassa's Oracle or Laboratory Maniac, maybe. But I probably kill you quicker.
Yeah.
So Oops is not like. I think the only person I'd be scared of is like obviously they're gonna have nut draws, but like maybe if I'm playing against Sodek, I'm like, oh geez, I'm like
right. Like they're definitely. Shout out! I did beat Sodek with the 4-color Omnath build. Omnath build.
Hell
yeah, that was hilarious. That was awful because I literally only had one out. I saw the Nexus. I was able to kill one of their lands with like that red destroy. It was Wildfire. The most niche scenario. Like it was not like this. You couldn't have done this in any other scenario. This was so goddamn niche, but I got it.
Love to see it.
Final deck that I want to kind of talk about in terms of the Mill matchup. Something that's popped up really recently. I'm actually surprised as to how high. Pardon?
I'm just wondering if it's the matchup I'm thinking of.
It is the Heliod Company Aladomri's Toolbox. I don't know why these are separate decks. They really are the same.
I think the Toolbox refers to Green-White Reclaimer.
I think it's like one plays Prime Time. Like one's a Prime Time deck. The nomenclature is I think the nomenclature is bad.
But... Yeah. Eladamri's Toolbox, I just call it Green-White Reclaimer. I know a lot of grinders call it that. That's like a whole separate deck. The Heliod deck, I think it's actually pretty good for us. It functions like it's basically Green-White Value Town, but really it has
evolved. Like we're not. It's not Gavany Township. We're not grinding you out.
Yeah, but it has like a combo finish. Like it has like a legit clock.
Yeah.
But I find that you surgical Heliod, and it goes back to just a green-white value mid-range deck,
which is a lot easier.
And then you can beat that quite easily. You do it with that deck. You often do have to play around Guy's Blessing.
Yep. So
that is something to consider. It's not a buy by any means. Like Green-White Reclaimer, I would say is a buy, even with a shuffle effect. That deck is even easier to beat than Amulet.
I'm literally looking at like all the lists that are playing this. Like, holy crap! The amount of Guy's Blessings in these. They're even playing like two. All of them are playing like 2 chokes bare minimum. Oh my god! I'm like just looking through these. These are awful. Please don't play against this list. Oh Jesus.
Oh no, Reclaimer. I love playing against. Heliod, I'm like okay. I feel like fairly.
Yeah, like they're gonna make you work for it. But,
I would say it's like a 60-40.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's not our best matchup. It's not a buy. It's a real deck. But and we don't even care about them gaining infinite life. We care about their creatures getting infinitely big.
Yeah, so, like the ballista and everything. I would say though, I would caution everyone on the Toolbox deck. Turn 1 Reclaimer is a really powerful magic card. So I would, people are thinking primetime deck and like, they're searching their library, but like.
But turn 2 they tap Reclaimer and they search their library. If you've got traps, like I let that live. and then I kill it right after.
Yeah. Just be careful. It runs away with the game. 3/4s aren't a joke.
It can be. Yeah.
So, don't let that get ahead of you just because you heard it's a primetime deck.
Sure. Sure. That was a nice little twofer we got there.
Yeah. But so I guess that's like where I wanted to end up. I think those are the big matchups. The rest of them, I mean, there's 3 damn Uro decks. Y'all know what's going on with mono red.
I will say, maybe if you're not aware, Storm is making a comeback.
Oh God.
Recently, I think was it shout out to Squad Chief.
Wow, actually
he was playing a Storm deck that had a mana base that couldn't be boiled and was playing Boil in the sideboard. I think he streamed last night. He played 3 leagues.
God, everyone's doing this. I hate how everyone's doing this.
He went 14-1 over 3 leagues.
Oh, okay.
So
the deck doesn't play fetches.
I've seen more Storm popping up on because I watch a lot of Twitch streams like opponents of streamers. I've been seeing more and more Storm. So I would look out for that. I think it's like it's one of our pretty good matchups for Mill.
Yep.
But just to keep that in mind, main Soul Guide Lantern's also good versus Storm.
You gotta love when they cast that sorcery to it's like, oh, I want. Yeah. There is a lot of moments in the Storm combo where you can respond. So it is really nice in that aspect. It's not like most other combos in the format. So that is something to be aware of. I'm looking at the meta share right now. It's being played more than Burn and Mill in terms of representation. That is scary.
Burn is like not really a deck right now.
I mean, God.
In a lot of metas, I have noticed that like Burn and Prowess will fluctuate. Like one is better than the other. It's rare that both are like really good. Except I would say probably like parts of Ikoria Modern, like before the companion nerfs, both were pretty good. Mm-hmm. But like depending on what other decks are around it, Prowess or Burn is going to be like better
right. The kind of fluctuating red deck.
But like Prowess is far and away way better than Burn right now. Yeah, imagine casting lava spikes into Uro players.
No. I don't even know what it just feels so weird if you think about the sequencing of Burn. Like you're a turn 4 deck. I'm sorry, like the control player is playing Uro on your turn 2 most of the time. Like like, and then they're holding up counter magic. Like, no, it's not happening. But one thing, I guess, like as we kind of round out this interview and kind of go into final thoughts here, what are you looking forward to in the Mill archetype? Is there a hole in the archetype that you want filled? Like maybe you don't design the card, but it's like, is there something that the archetype is missing? Is there something that you can thematically think of? Like Kaldheim is for Vikings. We have like kind of like a Hogwarts wizarding school set kind of coming out soon. Is there something that you can thematically think of that might come into Mill?
So because it's a standard set, I don't think they would print this. But I think Chef, you were talking about maybe in the wizarding set, there's like a functional reprint of Archive Trap because thematically it fits.
Oh no, Modern Horizons.
Oh,
because that's where they would do it. That's where they would do it.
But I think it like fits thematically, like in the wizarding one. But
that makes sense.
I don't think they'll do that. Thematically, I don't think there's.
Well, I mean, the theme is just like a guide. It's just
unless they want to make like Iceberg Cancrix, but like actually playable in Kaldheim. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
All right. Any people thinking that 12 or 16 crab is anything but a meme? Like you're kidding yourself. Stop it.
I'm sorry. Phantasmal Image doesn't help that deck at all. Like
no,
we have clones in our lands now. We can play clones.
Glass Pool Mimic. Come on.
No, folks, come on.
No. So as far as like a whole.
Maybe because the one I know that I've addressed before is I feel like the decks still struggle with I think they struggle with the red decks because the red decks are spell decks. I think that's the functional problem. The red decks are spell decks. We can prowess. The matchup comes down to, do we have enough removal? I think like if we can remove their threats and gain life, then we're fine. Whereas Burn is like, they're really just going to have it all the time. No amount of removal or counter magic will get there. So I've talked about a card where it could be a Crypt Incursion replacement, but it hits instants and sorceries.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That's like a hole that I wanted to address. Like that's a card I think that would be the final piece. That would shoot Mill into tier 1. I think that would shoot Mill into.
And that's playable versus control decks. Ooh.
Yeah. And the way I would balance it,
probably better than anything I could come up with.
It's like the way I talked about balancing it was it's like you choose one, and you exile all instants or all sorceries. So it's like okay, oh you got to hurt yourself a little bit because the thing is like I don't want this playable in control decks as a slam dunk either. I want it to hurt them as well, right? Because the card's got to be balanced. So you can hit all instants, and it's like, all right, they only have lightning bolts and friggin' lightning darts or, the darts and whatnot. And you can do that, and you gain, 2 life. I don't know, 1 life or whatever.
All right, so they won't bring back the mechanic, but if we're going with Pipe Dreams, give me a 2 CMC mill spell. So give me, Maddening Cacophony, but with Split Second. I really like Split Second personally.
Maddening Cacophony, no kicker, Split Second?
Yeah, exactly.
Automatically replaced. Maddening Cacophony is automatically replaced. I don't care about the kicker at all.
Absolutely.
That is literally a functional upgrade.
Literally
a functional upgrade.
It's the
there is no joke. It's not a functional upgrade 1% of the time. Maddening Cacophony getting countered is actually a legitimate concern. That is a functional upgrade. That is so good.
I'm trying to think of what else the deck might need. Because, I think it's in, a pretty good spot. We could always use, a Planeswalker, removals, always been,
I feel like that's a color pie addressing. I feel like that's...
Yeah. In blue-black, they've been giving us enchantment hate lately for black.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, harp on that.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. I feel like there's something on the tip of my tongue. And I'm trying to get it out there. What's something we could use?
I feel like another thing is maybe taking our planeswalkers to the next step. I feel like slowly are the planeswalkers available to us have been taking steps forward. So
sure.
From Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, it was all right, that's okay. I think okay, we have Narset.
Hey, I've played that in mill sideboards before.
Oh yeah, and there have been again what we were talking about in the snow meta. This is definitely I'm going to give you praise for. That Ashiok Nightmare Weaver in a meta where snow decks and Earl were huge. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver is that is good.
It was really good in that Jund Etron meta.
That is yeah. That is a really spicy idea.
Back over in the spring and summer, you could jam it as just a mid-range grinding threat.
But Narset, that was okay. Delthar was really a proponent of Narset.
I didn't really get to try that before it kind of came past.
Ashiok Nightmare, Ashiok Dream Render is the big one right now. It's no searching, exile effect. Do you feel like there's a next step for Planeswalkers? Because we know lore-wise, Ashiok is going to be further explored. It is very clear that Ashiok is going to find the Phyrexians.
Which is good, because Ashiok's my favorite Planeswalker, just thematically.
Sure.
I find Ashiok really interesting, they're an enigma of sorts. We don't quite know why they want to do the things they want to do. Very that much. Oh geez, I don't know. Maybe just even something that gets us recurring card advantage. That's one of the things that Mill kind of lacks is we don't draw cards very effectively.
What if they had a functional? What if they had an almost functional reprint of Visions? Let me pitch this to you. I'm just doing this off the fly here. Okay, 1 blue, sure. And if both players... So, I don't know. Okay, both players draw 1 card. But if both players had... No, let's say if an opponent had 10 cards in their graveyard, you draw 2. I don't know. That's
so bad design. The one I had in mind, because the one thing I wish Visions could do, I wish it was... target player. I wish it had the ancestral line of target player, not you. Now, so a fixed version, I could see it's Visions, but target player draws 2 if there's 20 or more in the graveyard. That I think would be good, because then you could play like a split of them. You could play more than 4, like, because I think that way you wouldn't have to play Miko Koro.
I'm actually thinking of proportions. That's why I'm like kind of paused right now. Like I would play it. I'm trying to think of proportions.
That's the thing that I was thinking of, is like, I wish I could target my opponent with a draw spell, to just kill them.
Yeah. No.
That would be kind of neat, and it would give us a little bit more card advantage.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No. I like that. It gives us an angle, and it's like, now you will never be concerned about a Nexus deck ever again. Literally, you will never be concerned about Nexus ever again.
Yeah.
That is never a concern ever again.
Sure.
But like, do you play 4? That's really interesting. Let me, for everyone that's made it so far in the YouTube video, let me know what you think in the comment down below. That's actually, to me, that's really thought provoking.
Yeah. I think that's interesting.
Is it 4 and 4? Oh, no. You know what though? Yo, okay. Now that I'm thinking about this, I'm comparing this to Legacy. If we had that card, we could go down a land count. I could see like 19, 18 card mill.
Ring, Enrico called.
Yeah.
No, I could see doing like 4 visions, 2 of that card, or like 3 and 3, or something like that. Like,
I kind of just want all the card draw. I would. I think
that might be giving up too many flex slots.
I mean, that's fair too.
Like you could give up the Cling, maybe depending on the meta, you could give up like the Soul Guide Lanterns, but like,
I actually really like Soul Guide. I think like that Soul Guide Ashiok slot.
I think you will be very impressed with Soul Guide Lantern when you stream at twitch.tv/thatmillguy.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm a good show even when it isn't for myself.
I love it. But that's really interesting. We're gonna explore that. That's interesting. I think we could probably go into a whole other discussion with that. That's actually really interesting. I think we'll leave that there. I could go miles on that. I'm really thinking about that card right now, but I think we'll kind of end it off there. Is there any last things you wanted to touch on? Kind of talk about where people can find you. Twitter, Discord. What are some final things you wanted to touch on?
So don't let people tell you mill is a meme. Even if you don't play mill, if you play something else that's like not tier 1.
Yeah.
Maybe you're one of those 3 8-rack players that I was talking about earlier. No. Maybe you play some other rogue deck that's like, it's like kind of competitive maybe. Just like keep at it, try to innovate on it, see if you can get it to work, pray Wizards print some cards that'll be good for you. But just like, do you, but like, it's, play Magic, play good Magic, do what you're going to do. If you want to follow me, best place is at Twitter, at BlitzMTG.
Again, links all down below.
Yeah, no, I don't play Prowess. I do not play Blitz the deck. There's a whole story about that. But so that's the best thing. I tweet about Magic. I tweet about League of Legends. I tweet about all sorts of stuff. I do have a Twitch, and it's a little bit of a contentious topic at the moment among some members of the Mill community. So I am at twitch.tv/BlitzMTG. I don't stream as much anymore for various reasons, but at some point, occasionally, I will stream.
It's always there, and you know what to do, right? Like, it's not like you have to rediscover streaming. One day you'll just be live.
Yeah, exactly. Hit that follow button. I always post on Twitter when I'm going live. So if you enjoy mill content, if you enjoy K-pop, that is a big thing that I do as part of my quote branding. Those are like the 2 places you can find me. I'm in the Mill Discord if you're in there. I'm just BlitzMTG. I'm very vocal, for better or for worse. Some people would probably want me to shut up, but sorry.
we got enough of those people everywhere. We got me posting links to streams every 2 hours, and then we have like people that are like, no, we need to be playing 10 lands in Mill, and people are like, yo, I will never play a single deck in Magic without drawing in the lock, even mono red. And then they're like, we got all types of personalities, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, no, the Mill Discord's great. Go if you're not in there, go look at the Mill Discord. but yeah, just keep on milling. I'm gonna keep playing in some of these events. And shout out to Chef and all of his socials. They'll probably be below.
I mean, I feel like if they're here on the channel, they know what's going on. I don't think people are like, let me see if there's that mill guy on YouTube. There's like a very specific line of thinking people need to go.
But if you haven't already, maybe you're just seeing this for the first time and you haven't like.
God damn, you made it this far? Thanks, man. Honestly, your views helping me through the YouTube algorithm is all I need. Even if you don't want to subscribe or not, but your view for the YouTube algorithm is lit. Like,
shout out to Shaf for organizing the interview. He's been wanting to do it for a while.
Finally got it out there.
I haven't top 8'd an event since June, and that was before Shaf was doing these kind of videos. So we finally, he's like, when are we doing this? When are we doing this? I'm like, Bish, let me achieve something first, and then we'll talk. And I guess this is like the first good opportunity. So
it's good.
It's been good. It's been good. I've enjoyed the chat.
We will. I promise everyone that's made it so far, we will assemble the Mill Avengers at some point. I plan to do it. It will be a big thing.
We need to get Jason Chung out of his mill retirement.
Oh God, there's so many people.
We'll get Jeremy Lichtenberger. Killager,
Tybalt the Red, whoever the hell these people are. Like, I don't even know. Like,
we'll find them.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
I mean, the government does, but I mean, don't worry.
I'll take yours over mine. Anyway.
But we'll end it there. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a bit of a longer video. We're gonna let Blitz go to bed. Someone who someone who works on the opposite clock.
And, I should actually live in Asia with how
the time zones are working.
With my work and sleep schedule, not eastern coast of the US. Yeah.
But thank you everyone for joining. Remember that even the impossible is possible, and as we ponder that thought, I hope you'll join us next time as we take a glimpse into the unthinkable.